Well, shalom, shalom. I just want to welcome everyone today that have came here to fellowship. We have all our family and friends here on the phone or internet, and maybe you're listening to the recording. We just want to invite everyone to go to the website, www.lunar-sabbath-day.com. It's a great source of information for the calendar study and to learn about the Father's calendar. There's articles there, videos there, and you can always go to the events page, scroll to the bottom, and see when we meet, and the phone numbers and the links are all listed there. And in fact, this article we're discussing today is over on the website, so you can read it in its entirety. So today our topic is 12 points that prove Saturday is not the Sabbath. And I hope you watched part one. Part one we did 2 days ago. So this is going to be a continuation. So 12 points. We'll go through, this is just a little review what the first 6 were. And I'm not hearing Brother Pete. I hope.
There we go.
Okay.
The Battle of Jericho was a 7-day event. 2, scholars have generally agreed that the only dates that the crucifixion could have taken place was AD 30, 31, or 33. 3, Saturday is a day of the pagan papal calendar, not the Hebrew calendar. 4, Exodus 12, 16, and 19 reveal that the Sabbath fell on the 15th of the month for 3 consecutive months. 5, the new moon is still, and the Sabbath originally was, dependent upon the lunar cycle. That's the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, page 410. No quote, no quote can be clearer than this. 6, in order to have a lunar Sabbath, you must have a lunar week.
Okay, and so the 7 we're going to discuss today, Brother Habib, would you read the 7? This is part 2 today that we're going to be going through, and it's the last 6 points.
Yes, 7, new moon interrupts the week. From creation, new moon days are not included in the work week. 8, Abib 10 is the day to purchase a lamp if you don't already own one. Abib 10 floats on the Roman calendar. 9, there is a 2-day new moon in the Old Testament. Number 10, every weekly Sabbath that can be date identified in Scripture falls on either the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or 29th day of the lunar month. 11, when in idolatry Israel worshipped on Saturn, but you have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch king and tuned your images, the star of your God which you made for yourselves. Amos 5:26. Tune is the Hebrew word for Saturn. Number 12, Genesis 1:14 says that the 2 great lights would be for signs, seasons, days, and years. Thus, the calendar of Yah is in the heavens.
Okay, so the new moon interrupts the week from creation. New moon days are not included in the work week. And because they're not weekdays, they interrupt the weekly cycle every month. Go ahead, Brother
Genesis 1 through 2, and Ezekiel 46:1 proves that New Moon Day, the first day of every month, even the first month of the year's history, of the Earth's history, is a 3rd category of day, not counted as a weekday. Ezekiel 46:1 says, that the gate to the temple is shut on all 6 working days, but open on the Sabbath and the new moon. Ezekiel 46:1, thus says Yahweh, the gate of the inner court that looked toward the east shall be shut the 6 work days, but on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. The 4th day of the week is a work day, right, on the Gregorian calendar. Let's say for a moment that the new moon fell on the 4th day of the week, that is, on Wednesday. If the tabernacle were still here, and I asked you, would the gate have been shut? How would you answer? And we show a calendar that shows Wednesday with the new moon day. So it's a work day, meaning it should be shut, and it's a new moon day, which means it should be open. Answer, if you say open because it's a new moon, I would respond that it's a work day. It must be shut. If you agree, of course, quote, of course, Wednesday is a work day. It must be shut, end quote. I'd reply, but my friend, it is new moon. It is new moon. It must be open, end quote.
Okay, so it's quite a dilemma if people want to believe the Gregorian calendar went all the way back to creation. Then the days like Wednesday and all of that would be a new moon day could fall on that day, but it's not possible. And like Naama mentioned earlier in our worship today, that new moon day, the gates are open and Sabbath gates are open. So, and we did do a whole YouTube about the days of the 3 kinds of days in Scripture. So Saturday Sabbath keepers have no correct answer to this because they are applying a pagan, papal, Roman, solar-only, man-made calendar to this scriptural calendar event. And you can't apply days of the week like Wednesday to these scriptures.
Amos, go ahead.
Amos, the unscripturalist vendors are seeking to cheat the Israelites, but it is Sabbath and new moon. Israel won't come out to buy their wares until a work day. And Isaiah, we will worship Yahweh on the Sabbath and new moon days, not on work days.
Okay, and we'll probably take turns because that's what we did Sabbath, Brother Pete. And Habia read the 2nd page and Brother Martin read the 1st page. So we'll just kind of do that today. And I thank you for the help, you guys. So I don't want to be the one doing all the reading. But anyways, there's these verses about New Moon Day in Amos and in Isaiah and in Kings. And then here is a little calendar showing New Moon Day is day 1. And then we have the work days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 working days. And the 7th day is the Sabbath. So, and we did, I hope you'll go back and watch the video we did about the 3 kinds of days in Scripture.
2 Kings, quote, the boy collapses in the field. His mother races out, scoops him up, and runs inside. There the boy dies in her lap. So she runs upstairs, places the boy on Elisha's bed, and then runs to her husband, asking permission to take a donkey and a servant with her to go see the prophet. To which he inquires, it is neither new moon nor Sabbath. Why do you want to go see him? Where is the man? In his field. What is he doing? He's working.
Okay, so it was a work day, and this is another one of the stories about the temple wasn't open for her to go see the prophet on a work day, so why would she be going? Okay, and Brother Pete, go ahead and read this because I can't see it all here. This is our next one.
Abib 10 is the day to purchase a lamb if you don't already own one. Abib 10 floats on the Roman calendar. The 14th day of Abib is always the preparation day for the Sabbath of the unleavened bread.
Okay, Brother Habia?
The barley could be harvested on the 16th only after the wave sheaf had been offered. This is found in Leviticus 23, 9 through 14. If there is a continuous, uninterrupted 7-day cycle, and Saturday is the weekly Sabbath, every few years, either on the 10th, 14th, or 16th will fall on a Saturday. How is this possible? Evidence. Abib 10 fell on Saturday in 2003. In 2018, as you can see on the calendar right above, and in 2020. The 14th fell on Saturday in 2004, 2008, 2011, and 2018. Abib 16 fell on Saturday in 2002, 2006, 2009. There is no legislation provided to do these tasks a day early or late in case these days just happen to fall on the Sabbath. These work dates are fixed. They never fell on a Sabbath. Furthermore, Yahweh never instructed Israel to do common work on a rest day.
Okay, so for our brothers and sisters that keep the feast, and they read that, we read that on the 10th of Abib, they were to go get a lamb, and on the 14th was a Passover day, and both of those days were work days. But if you place them on a Gregorian calendar, those days would land on a Saturday Sabbath. They would only be work days, in this example, on the Father's calendar, because his calendar never changes. So 14 is always the Passover, and it's in the weekday where you could work. But if you place it over here, it can be on your Sabbath. So would you go buy a lamb if you were an Israelite, let's say, for example, for those that think the Gregorian calendar went all the way back to creation? Would you go buy a lamb on that day? That's a Saturday. No, I don't think so, because anyways, we're going to discuss more. This calendar did not exist at the time of Israel. So there, number 9 point, there is a 2-day new moon in the Old Testament, and here is the story about it.
According to Scripture, new moon days interrupt the week. It was on the 29th day of the month that David said to Jonathan, "Tomorrow is the new moon," 1 Samuel 25. Jonathan agreed in verse 18. David understood that there would be 2 days of feasting, day 30 and day 1, which is why he requested that Jonathan come into the field to shoot the arrows on the 3rd day, the day following the 2nd day of the new moon celebration. David knew that the king would expect him for the 2 days in question, and he was right. The king ignored his absence on the 1st day, thinking him unclean or something, but was wroth when he was not there on the 2nd day. That's 1 Samuel 20, 24 through 30.
Okay, so Jonathan and David agreed on the 29th day of the month, and David was not at the king's table on the 30th, nor on the 1st. And Jonathan shot his arrows on the 2nd, because we know the 30th would have been the transition day, and then the day 1 is the new moon day. So it would have been on the 2nd that Jonathan shot the arrow, and then that shows there was a 2-day new moon celebration back there at the time of Israel. And we know that all the calendars before 700 BC were always 30-day months, and the calendar had a little dent in it, and it became 29.5-day months. But the calendar of Israel was always a 30-day month. So Scripture, I can't read that part, but go ahead. I got part of my screen has a little square on it, Brother Pete.
Oh, in Scripture, the months all used to be 30 days in length, for a total of 360 lunar-solar year. The luni-solar year was originally 360 days long, 12 30-day months, which equals 360-day year.
Okay, I'm going to move that little thing to see. Okay, so, okay, Noah and the flood. Brother Habia, would you like to read Noah, and then Brother Pete could read Daniel?
Sure. Here is the evidence for this. In Genesis chapter 7, verse 11 says that the flood began on the 17th day of the second month. Genesis 8:4 says the water prevailed upon the face of the earth until the 17th day of the 7th month. That is 5 months. Genesis 7:24 and 8 verse 3 say that the water prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. 150 days divided by 5 equals 30 days. So there were 5 consecutive 30-day months in Scripture, which is not possible with the current relationship between the earth and the moon.
Okay, Daniel and Revelation, the second witness. All of the time prophecies in Daniel and Revelation are based on a 360-day year. That is, time, times, and a dividing of time equated to 360 plus 720 plus 180, or 1,260 days, where a time was a Hebrew idiom for a literal year.
Okay, so the lunar cycle is now, as I was saying earlier, 29.5 days rather than 30 days in length, which equates to some months being 29 days long and some being 30. And but there are 4 7-day weeks each month, which accounts for only 28 of 29 or 30 days. The other 2 days are day 30 or 29 or 30, and day 1 are new moon days. So day 1 would be new moon day on a 29-day month. If you had a 30-day month, of course, it would be day 1 again, but you would have 1 day of transition between Sabbath and new moon day. So number 10, and there's only 12 points here. We're getting down to the end, and so this whole article is on the website for you to read. It's all done by Troy Miller, and it's very lengthy and very informative, and I took most of it and put it on this PowerPoint for you. So number 10, every weekly Sabbath that can be date identified in Scripture falls on either the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or 29th day of the lunar month. And much of this we did cover already in the first part, but we're going to go over it again. Brother Pete?
Sabbaths in Scripture, 8th, 15th, 22nd, or 29th day of the lunar month. When you study through both the Old and New Testaments, you will find that there are no weekly Sabbaths that are found on any date other than these dates. This cannot happen with the current solar calendar. This cannot happen if Saturday is the Sabbath, or if the weekly Sabbath is every 7th day in an unbroken cycle. This does, however, occur on a lunar-solar calendar, though. Looks like the calendar model on this page.
Okay, so you see the new moon day is day 1, and the Father's calendar, we have 6 working days, a Sabbath, 6 working days, a Sabbath. Okay, and then On a Gregorian calendar, you'll see that they don't have the 8, 15, 22nd, maybe on one month, but not several in a row. And there's over 20 passages that do identify the Sabbath on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, or 29th day. And I'll be including both of these articles to those that are getting the emails, and I'll put them in the links below if you're watching the recording.
Just a few examples. The 15th day of Abib is the weekly Sabbath. In Exodus 12 reveals that Israel was released from Egypt on Abib 15, the 15th day of the first month of the year of the Exodus. It is not called a Sabbath in Exodus 12, but later Scripture does reveal the nature of this day. In Leviticus 23, 4 through 8 shows us that Passover, Abib 14, is preparation day for Abib 15, the Sabbath of unleavened bread.
So if these dates on these months, if there's a 14th in Scripture, that automatically shows the 15th as a Sabbath, because we know the day after Passover was a Sabbath. And so by default, if you prove one date in the month, it pretty much proves the whole month for the Sabbath being 8, 15, 22, and 29. Here's the manna story.
The manna. The 15th and 22nd of the second month of Exodus are weekly Sabbaths. Exodus 16 is the first place where the word Sabbath is used in Scripture. Here, Yahweh is speaking to Moses and Aaron on the 15th day of the second month, and tomorrow would begin a series of 6 days of manna, followed by a Sabbath. From day 15, add 6 days of manna would equal 21. Next day, the 22nd, is the Sabbath.
Okay, so manna started falling on the first day after the 15th. It fell on the 16th, the first day of the week, 6 days of manna. So that proves the 22nd is a Sabbath. So when you have the 22nd as a Sabbath, that proves all of these line up for the right dates for 8, 15, 22, and 29.
Many of these proof texts have been discussed in part 1. 3 months in a row, there's Jericho, crucifixion. The crucifixion on Passover day proves that the Abib 15 is the weekly Sabbath. Mark 15, 42 through 43 says that the crucifixion took place on preparation day, the day before the Sabbath.
So that proves that the 15th is a Sabbath, so that puts them all in a row again. So for more evidence, like I said, I'm going to have the links below because there's a long 20 passages are in that article. So when in idolatry, Israel worshipped on Saturn day, or worshipped Saturn, I could have skipped that word. Israel worshipped Saturn, but you have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, king, and Chion, your images, the star of your God, which you made for yourselves. And that's in Amos 5:26. So is Saturn related to Saturday?
When in idolatry, Israel worshipped on Saturn's day, but you have borne the tabernacle. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay, because I threw you off, Brother Pete, because I put this in here. Chion is the Hebrew word for Saturn. And so in that text, when it said you worshipped Molech and Chion, your star god, they were worshiping Saturn. So go ahead and read the next one, Brother Pete. Sorry, I messed you up on that one.
Israel worshipped on Satyrday, but it isn't what you think. But you have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, king, and Chion your images, the star of your God, which you made for yourselves, and that's Amos 5:26. Chion is the Hebrew word for Saturn, but that does not mean their worship was acceptable to Yahweh. In this case, Amos sees a day where Israel worships a star god that you would make for yourselves, which means that Israel would have been in apostasy at the time.
And we did discuss this quite a bit already on part 1. So I always hate this picture of the satyr or Satan, basically, but Troy says here as a side note, it's very interesting that we pronounce the N in wooden day, like for Wednesday, but we don't say Saturn's day for Saturday. And have you ever heard of a satyr, the cloven half man, half goat, the universal symbol of Satan himself, which I hate those kind of pictures. But so go ahead, Brother Habi, and read this side.
What we have here is a dual counterfeit. One is obvious and the other not so obvious. Which day do you keep holy? Sunday, the current first day of the pagan Roman papal calendar. Saturday, the current 7th day of the pagan Roman papal calendar. I say current because these days were not always the first and 7th day of the week, respectively. Sunday is the obvious fraud. Only the enemies of Yahweh would observe Sunday in honor of the pagan sun god. But every Saturday of every week, of every year, Sabbatarians everywhere, in spite of themselves, worship on Saturday, a day named after Satan himself.
And from our brothers and sisters that are still keeping Saturday, this is, we did too. We didn't know any better. So this is to open our eyes and to realize what these days represent and the gods they represent.
Number 12, Genesis 1:14, states that the 2 great lights would be for signs, seasons, days, and years. Thus, the calendar of Yahweh is in the heavens, each time segment regulated by at least one of the great lights, 2 great lights.
So number 12, Genesis 1:14 says that the 2 great lights would be for signs, seasons, days, and years. And that, I think I have this doubled here at the same screen. So thus the calendar of Yah is in the heavens, one of the 2 great lights. Yeah, I did duplicate that, but it's good to hear it again, isn't it? This is number 12, our last one. And the Sabbath is a sign between Yah and his people for the generations. He said, I am Jehovah, I change not. And he says in Ezekiel 20 that Sabbath is a sign. And also Exodus 31, he says Sabbath is a sign. And we know, go ahead and read that one, hubby, what it means in Hebrew.
Ezekiel 20, verse 20. All say that the Sabbath is a sign using the same Hebrew word found in Genesis 1:14, oath, meaning signal or beacon.
So he made the moon to mark the seasons, and the sun knows its time for setting, Psalms 104:19. And then Leviticus 23, 1-3 shows the weekly Sabbath to be the first feast when you read it. We didn't read when we were studying the feast. We didn't see Sabbath as a feast, but it's the very first one listed. He said, these are my feasts. And then he lists Sabbath too. But Brother Pete, I can't see that one.
Psalm 104:19 says that the moon will regulate the seasons, that is moedim, appointed time, or set feasts.
Okay, so their moedims are set, and that the moon would regulate them. So there is much more evidence to prove that Saturday is not the weekly Sabbath. These 12 different witnesses should prove to be a rather formidable obstacle for any promoters of Saturday or enemies of the lunar Sabbath, as well as fatal to any Saturday Sabbath doctrine.
The calendar,
okay, either one.
The calendar of Scripture must line up with nature, as the calendar of Scripture is found in nature, regardless of the opinion of naysayers. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, after reading this, does it appear that Saturday, the seventh day of the pagan papal Gregorian calendar, a calendar created for the express purpose of worshipping false gods, is the Sabbath of Scripture? Or is the calendar and Sabbath of Scripture regulated by the lights in the heavens?
Well, that's the same screen again, and I'm just showing you the calendar here with the new moon day and the first quarter. That's announcing the first Sabbath, and then the full moon is the middle of the month, and then the last quarter. But you can't go out and look up at the sky and see this Gregorian calendar. You can only see the sun. So we're getting to the end here. This alone is enough to prove that the Sabbath is by the moon. Yours is not to ask why. Either do, obey, or do not. The how will only be answered by going outside and looking at the clock and watching for patterns. Can you go outside, look at the sun, and tell whether it is Saturday or Sabbath? No. Then try the other lesser of the two great lights in the heavens. And that is the end of this teaching. Psalms 19:1, the heavens proclaim the glory of Jehovah, and the skies display his craftsmanship. So I want to thank Brother Pete and Brother Habia for helping with the reading. And I hope that you watched part 1. If not, please go back, because many of other things were explained in part 1. Lots of historical records from the Jewish encyclopedias showing that the Sabbath originally was dependent upon the lunar cycle. So, and I will be leaving the links below, and I just want to thank everyone for being here today. And let me go over here, and then everybody that's here, please stay by, because we're going to, I'm trying to get this off. Just a minute, I'm going to shut my recording off. Sorry, everybody, for the delay. So those that are here, will please stay by for discussion. And if you're muted, please push *6 to unmute. And let me see, I gotta go. I'm still finding how to shut it off. It's just taken me a minute today, but I'm very thankful for this day today, and for this recording, and for everyone that's here today. And we'll be back next week. We'll be back 2020. It'll be March 2nd.